So this isn't really about code. It's about single extension that we added to 2.4. So some people make mistakes in their life while they work. And if you're an author, that mistake might be a typo. It might be a single typo, and that might cause issues. And it sort of depends on how you want to handle your mistakes. Either you just ignore them, or you do something about them. And in this case, you can just act it never happened. And according to some statistics I found online, it's really expensive to. You can't probably even see that. It's really expensive to fix issues once you've shipped the product. Your product could be a car, or it could be a printed document, and if you're lucky, it's a website you can update and no one notices. But in some cases, you actually ship something physical, and it's really expensive to fix it once your customer has it. So there are different ways of QA, quality assurance, that you can prevent yourself from shipping those mistakes you're bound to make. So this is one example of how it could be done in software documentation related to a DITA-OT extension. So here we have some. I wonder if I can make it bigger. So here we have some code, or the output is up there. So we have a small description followed by a code example. This is a really boring code example, a factorial, but it'll be enough for our purposes. So the DITA 1.0 approach was to use a code block. And that's better than nothing, because you could talk about factorials without actually showing any code. So this is the better than nothing approach. Okay, then we can use indirection. That is a step forward, and DITA 1.2. 1.2 gave us code ref. So we can actually stick the code block to a separate file to separate DITA from content that isn't DITA, that could perhaps be verified to be correct by someone, a person perhaps. So in a way, I think this is a step forward with QA. You don't have everything in one block. You all know this, you've done DITA before. Then you sprinkle on some pixie dust that may or may not work. So here we have a huge text file that contains all your source code. This is just an example. That means there's a lot more. And your coders or someone else can go through the code and verify that it's correct. And you can use an extension in Open Toolkit, the line extension, that allows you to pull a range of lines in a file. So you have everything in one file. You just pull in those lines that you want for that example. But everyone knows this isn't the right way. Stick everything into one file and then pull from that. This sort of smells, I don't know, feels like DITA 1.0. So the new stuff I introduced sort of by accident, and later on I understood that there might be something useful about this, is the thing that Obsolete Errata, where your DITA content still references a file in CodeRef, and you give it two tokens, the start token and then the end token. And then you have a file And what Open Toolkit does, it just tries to find a line that contains that content, starts to consume those lines or copy them into the output, and then when it finds the end token, it stops. So in a way, you're telling it, take everything that's between these two lines. And it's language agnostic in the sense that it doesn't care that this happens to be a comment in Rust, the Rust programming language. So that also means that when you have a file, you can add new lines of code there, and you're not bound to given line numbers. You just want to pull things defined by these two tokens. So I don't know if anyone noticed, but the code example in Rust, the original one on the previous slides, it had few bugs in it. For one, 0 needs to map to 1, not 0. So if you ship this in a textbook, you already taught someone a wrong sort of algorithm. Then the indentation didn't match the language conventions. So there was a 2-space indentation, it needs to be 4. Some languages are fairly picky about this. And then you didn't actually have the pub keyword there to make it public. So now we found 3 issues that we could have fixed. And in this case, the cool thing is that Rust file here contains the tests. So we have code that your developer could write. They can run it, they can see that it compiles, they can verify that the code examples pass all the unit tests, but then your author just picks those few lines from there. These tests are never shipped, never shown. They're just your quality assurance that your content is correct. This isn't completely novel. Some system already does this. Can't remember which. If someone recognizes this approach, please tell me. But I think this is fairly good way of trying to maintain software QA with the documentation. And this is shipped in 2.4. Dankeschön.
Thank you.